Hey everybody, Mark Herman, aka LA Bengals fan on most of the major platforms, and I'm joined here by Jake Circus of the Jake Circus podcast, and this is the week 3 preview. It's our Monday night Ring of Honor game, a Monday night football of Jungle Talk. Yeah, I know, and I never envisioned that we would be 0-2 going into this game. I thought worst case 1-1, but here we are. It's where we are. We were here last year. So, Jake, before I forget, if you don't subscribe, please subscribe. It's all we ask. We don't sell you anything. We don't put commercials in the middle. We don't do any of that. Just subscribe and hit the alert button so you know when our videos come up. And please hit the thumbs up on YouTube because it helps us with the analytics. And Jake, tell them where they can find all your stuff.
Yes, Jake Circus podcast, Spotify, and YouTube. Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Monday NFL show. Wednesday college football. Friday gambling show. This Saturday, actually, it's been in the works for a good bit of time. Posted on Twitter. I'll be doing teaming up with the guys at BR Betting. Hosting a college football show on the Bleacher Report app Saturday morning at 11 a.m. Eastern, going over the loaded college football slate for this Saturday, week 4. So make sure to check that out. Turn the notifications for the BR app on in the sports betting section, and you'll get the link. It'll also be on my Twitter Saturday morning. So yeah, come pop out in the comments, show some love.
Yeah, and you know what? I pin this to my Twitter feed. Obviously, this is on the LA Bengal fan home Facebook page, but I post this. This is always pinned, the latest episode, to the Twitter feed and Jake's his Twitter account or X or whatever the social media app formerly known as Twitter. You can reach him from there too. So you know why Prince did that, by the way? It was to get out of a record contract. So he had so much music he had to put out, and then he didn't want this album to be. So he said, "Oh, I'm the artist formerly known as Prince. I'm not Prince. Prince didn't record this," and that was the whole deal with saying he was the
There you
artist
go.
formerly known as Prince. So there are ways out of language of contracts. You just need to find the right attorney to tell you how to do it. So
It's a little before my time.
yeah, but that's the origin of the artist formerly known as Prince. So well, here we are. You know, usually we have notes. We're early this week because of scheduling. So I think Zach's doing his presser right now. You said he was already on what, Rich Eisen this morning?
Yeah, he went on Rich Eisen this morning, which, I mean, if that tells you anything, it means like he's still fine talking, and they're gonna ask him all these things about Burrow, and he's not gonna say shit, and he didn't.
Yeah.
The like we just heard, he just talked about, he just started the press conference, and he's like, he's day to day, probably not practicing full. That was probably more than I actually thought he was gonna say about him. I figured
Right.
Burrow would just pop up on the report, and the reporters would see what he's doing in practice, which is still what's gonna end up happening, but. Yeah, I mean, it's you said it, 0-2. Here we go again. I don't think a team in NFL history has ever made the playoffs back-to-back years after starting 0-2 in both. It's really hard for good teams to keep starting 0-2. It's not what you want. Bengals kind of got screwed with the scheduling. No preseason for Burrow. Basically a half training camp. And out of the gate, they face 2 division teams and play a close one against Baltimore. Can't make the plays at the end. Burrow gets re-injured, and I'm like, dude, like, fuck.
Yeah,
So
we don't commit the penalty on the fumble recovery. That changes the whole tone of the game. Getting the ball inside the 10 in the first half, and obviously not throwing the pick. If we come out and we get back-to-back scores out of the locker room at halftime, we probably win that game. Either one of those things happen, we win that game. So even with everything that we did wrong, we just one of those plays goes our way, and it didn't. And that's why in the recap video, I said we didn't make the plays. We had 2 opportunities right there. So,
yeah, it's still the slow starts though. It's what screwed them last year in the first couple of weeks. It's doing it again this year. Bengals are last in offensive efficiency and scripted drives. So like the first 2 drives, and that's like that can't happen when you have Burrow as your quarterback. And part of it's Burrow. He's getting confused out there. It doesn't look like himself. Looked a lot better in the second half, obviously. But these scripted drives now back-to-back weeks, they have put themselves behind the 8 ball, and it's not been pretty to watch.
yeah. Well, so when we first looked at the schedule, we thought this was like going to be an easy win. I mean, we did not easy, but I mean, we didn't think this was one of our tougher games. I mean, it's at Monday night. It's the Ring of Honor game, the third weekend. We think, hey, this is when we walk, and the Rams were supposed to be, one of the lesser teams. I still believe they are, but they sure, I mean, they've shown a little feistiness in these first couple games. And they scored 30 on Seattle, came back in the second half to win that game. I think it was 13-7 at half. And they ended up winning. They ended up putting, 17 or 23 points up in the second half. So, and surprising Seattle in Seattle. And then they showed up last week against the Niners. I mean, I know there was this talk where they kicked a field goal late in the game, which actually helped gamblers. So those people who had the Rams in 7.5, that field goal. I don't know if the coach had that in mind. Do you think McVay knew the betting line?
It's really funny. My theory is that it is impossible for coaches to not know the betting line in this day and age. Now, that being said, do they care? No. But it was weird though, because I at college this happens all the time. Coaches kick the field goal down 10, try to get the onside kick. Sometimes they actually care about the spread, for whatever reason. But I don't remember the last time I've seen that in an NFL game. Like Vrabel kicked a weird field goal in week 1, but that was to get it to 1. He was down 4, kicked a field goal to get it back to 1. They didn't get the ball back. Saints ran the clock out. But kicking the field goal down 10, that does not happen in the NFL very often. And I cannot tell you the last time that I've seen that.
And wasn't it one of the last plays of the game?
No, it was at the buzzer.
Right.
That's why it was so strange.
So this was at the buzzer. This was just for cosmetics. You know what? Maybe he's thinking, you've had college coaches that have been fired because they didn't cover spreads for alum. It does happen. This is way before your time. It's a really
good point.
But Ted Tollner had an opportunity. Okay. The SC was favored against Notre Dame, and this is the 80s. SC was favored against Notre Dame, and they were driving late in the game and could have kicked a field goal just to pad the score, and they would have covered. And Tollner went for it on 4th down inside the 10. They didn't make it. SC ultimately won the game, but they did not cover. 2 weeks later, Tollner was fired. So there, all he had to do was cover for the alum. So it does come into play sometime. And that's a college example. I've never seen it in the pros where they did this. So
yeah, very often in the NFL, you'll see kicking down 10, go for the onside kick. If it's 4th and 9 from the 12, absolutely you kick there. Doesn't matter how many timeouts you have left. You can still either, if you have timeouts, you can onside kick or try to get a stop. But at the buzzer,
it was
and the spread being at 7.5. So that's what made it.
It was purely a meaningless field goal. And like I said, he covered for some people. It pushed bets for others too. So there were people with the Niners, so it's -7, and it pushed it. So, like I said, they're a feisty team. We'll get back on track here. We scrolled there for a second, but they're a feisty team. They're not going to be a pushover. What can you say that they don't have Cooper Kupp, but this Puka kid's playing really well. He's put up more catches than I think for a rookie for the first 2 games. Didn't he set some kind of a record on the first?
Yeah, he broke one of the weird Mickey Mouse rookie records that that reporters like to talk about and give this guy props. No, it's actually funny that the Puka storyline, because all the fantasy guys were like running to the podium to pick this guy up on their waivers or their free agent bids. And I'm like, this guy was good. He's a good football player in college at BYU. He was a good player. And now everyone's finding out about him because he's like basically Cooper Kupp reincarnated. But what is more impressive is that they're doing this without Cooper Kupp. I said this preseason with the Rams. Like, I thought that they could be a lot better than what people think. They're showing that 2 weeks being competitive. They're very well coached, and Matthew Stafford healthy looks like a different quarterback than whatever they had last year, obviously. Even when Stafford was playing hurt, still way better. But doing this without Cooper Kupp, this roster is really bad. Like, it's still really bad. Coaching has made it seem a lot better than it actually is. I mean, here are their pressure leaders. Byron Young with 8 pressures. Obviously, Aaron Donald, still very, very good. Might be a trade piece in a couple of weeks in the deadline. We'll see. Michael Hott, never heard of him. He has 6 pressures. And then Kobe Turner. So 3 of the 4 guys are not household names that are getting pressure on the defense. The offensive line is still the weak point of the team. It was last year, even when Stafford was healthy. When Baker was the QB, that offensive line was bad. So that's where the Bengals can have success on Monday night in front of the home crowd. Very, very bad offensive line. But no, this Rams team's playing surprisingly well. Stafford looked good the first 6 quarters and then threw 2 bad interceptions in the second half. Niners also recovered a fumble. So the Rams really played themselves out of that game. It was at home, but I always say it was the Niners' annual 9th home game of the year.
Right.
Because it was all red.
Like
it is every single year.
Yep.
So it was their annual extra home game, as I like to say, especially with the new stadium, basically just filling more seats for Niners fans at SoFi. So it's only proving the Rams a disservice, if anything. But no, they've looked good. Said last week,
the word I use is feisty.
Yeah, I had on week 1 against Seattle. I actually did a really good live bet with the Niners at halftime. I got them at like plus 110 on the money line, and they won by 2 scores, or I guess by 1 score because McVay kicked. But no, they've definitely, like you said, looked feisty. Not a pushover at all. It's the NFL. Our quarterback's injured. We have not looked good at all. We've looked really bad. So it's completely not a pushover. The line has plummeted. Maybe due to some power rating adjustments with Cincinnati, definitely having something to do with Burrow's injury. And yeah, like it's 2.5 now. Its line was probably going to be 8 3 weeks ago. So that's a full touchdown of a drop. That's massive.
Right. Well, and then if Burrow is a scratch Monday night, then the Rams are going to be favored because Jake Brown has not instilled any confidence in anybody. So
it's probably will be Bengals -1 because I think the line already dropping 6.5 points is like Burrow being hurt. So it's not going to drop like a full difference between him and Browning, if that makes sense. But like if it opened at 4 and then like Burrow was like supposed to play and then he didn't, then yeah, it probably drops 4.5 points. I remember 2 years ago, Josh Allen was supposed to play, and then Matt Barkley ended up starting. The line dropped 5 points. So that's really like the most that it can drop for a quarterback.
But that's still, we're almost an underdog because the home team gets 3 points just for being at home.
Yeah, so, and 0-2 teams.
If the game were even, the Bengals would be a 3-point favorite. So right now, basically, that's where we are. The game is even, and we're getting the 2.5 for being at home. If Burrow goes away, like I said, we're essentially an underdog. Even if we're only giving 1, that's an underdog for a home team.
Yeah, and I saw this stat earlier today, or maybe it was yesterday. 0-2 teams who had a preseason over/under win total in the double digits, 10 wins, 11 wins, whatever it may be, they cover at a 70% clip in week 3. So the desperation starts to kick in. It's going to, for sure. Bengals had a really good week 3 game last year against the Jets in New York. They covered, won by 3 scores, I think. Good Burrow game. So we'll see, man. Good teams don't start 0-3. And I get that's maybe a little unfair because of the Burrow injury, but they have not played good at all. They have not made the plays when they've needed to, offense and defense, and it's deservingly so. Their metrics have dropped, their power ratings have dropped, and they're not the Super Bowl contender that everyone thought they were going to be preseason. Similar to last year, they obviously played their way back into it by winning 12 straight games, but with an injured quarterback, like even if Burrow doesn't go on IR, are we like really going to expect them to win 12 straight games with the first place schedule? Probably not.
That's what scares me is, when we lost at home in week 2, we hadn't lost. Our previous loss at home was the Steeler game in week 1 of the 22 season.
Wow. Yeah.
We hadn't lost again. So going back to think about that. We hadn't lost. We ran the table at home after losing to Pittsburgh, after losing the opener. We didn't lose another home game. And here we lost a home game first time out. So there's concerns here. So the defense has to show up. We have to, with this offense. You thought that with the 2 injuries on Baltimore's offensive line that we would be able to win that game. Just on that. Yeah. There were Ravens fans in the recap video that we put up. There were Ravens fans that said, we really thought we were going to lose this game because of the injuries on the offensive line. So, and they didn't. So, Can we take advantage of this? So far, that's one of the biggest disappointments for me. I knew it was going to take time for this O-line to gel, but the lack of pressures by Hubbard. Hubbard looked terrible against Cleveland. He overplayed every play, and then it wasn't that much better against Baltimore. So
Yeah.
our defense
Well,
has been disappointing.
So it was Trey Hendrickson actually who was going up against Ronnie Stanley's replacement. He was going up against Patrick McCree, who was an undrafted free agent at Cal in 2019. McCree was the leading Ravens offensive lineman according to PFF in week 2. So Hendrickson did not play well at all. He was getting beat up by a backup left tackle, or I guess backup left tackle.
Yeah.
It was rough. It was bad.
So, and we saw how a team can take over a game on Monday night with the Steelers. I mean, think about it. 9 first downs. Pickett managed 9 first downs, yet they won the game because they got 2 defensive scores. I mean, their defense stepped up and brought it home. And we kind of need our defense to do that this week. Take some pressure off Burrow. And also, I want to see a big game out of Mixon. Let's run the ball. 13 carries is not enough. We need to try to get Mixon established. It'll take pressure off Burrow, and it'll set up the passing game. Take him a little easier. I read one article that said they've stripped down the playbook for Monday night to make it easier on Burrow. So, let's see. But definitely concerns here. I don't know how else to say it. It's there. We have to win. I don't like to call things a must-win game in week 3.
Oh, this is a must-win.
This is a must-win game. I mean, you can't win the Ring of Honor game at home in week 3 against the Rams. And this starts a really soft part of our schedule where we could string together 3 or 4. So
yeah, there's got a Nashville trip coming up. Then I think in Arizona the week after that.
Yeah.
So like, if you're like, I get this is for sure the soft part of the schedule. But if you're 0-3 and have to go on the road back-to-back weeks, I don't care who you're playing. Like that's not a good situation.
So, well, we know this team responds to adversity. They keep saying, "Hey, we've been here before. We're not panicking." But as fan base, I'm sitting here looking around, going, "Things aren't right. This is not the same 0-2 we were last year." So, I mean, we need Burrow to play. First of all, I have zero confidence in Browning on Monday night. If he's playing, we probably don't win the game. He's erratic. He's not consistent. He doesn't. Our backup situation is terrible. We talked about this ad nauseum in preseason. How every single game it was like we have zero faith, and I don't think Greer is ready. So to step in yet, he's not even on the active roster. So it'd be a Jake Browning game, maybe his first and last if he plays. But I'm thinking Burrow's going to play. That's the assumption we're going on. We have no injury report yet because I don't think the team practiced yesterday. Nothing's up. We're shooting this, at 10 a.m. Pacific time. At Zach's news conference was just going on. So, like I said, it's on Burrow. I'm asking our defense and asking our offensive line and Mixon to step up and win this game. That's what we're asking them to do.
I think that it is. I think Burrow's going to play.
I think so too.
It is even when he got first hurt, like when he first got hurt in training camp, one of the reporters point blank asked him if this was a game that you needed to win, would you play? And he said, yes. And Zach would say, yes, he'd play. So here we are. We're 0-2, biggest home crowd ever. He's going to play.
Right.
He's going to play.
Well, so, and we've got, like I said, it's Chad and Boomer going into the Ring of Honor. So hopefully there's enough energy and mojo.
Maybe Chad can play quarterback. I don't know. Or Boomer.
I actually would rather see Chad back there running, wildcat type formation. I would have more faith in that than Browning. After watching the preseason with Simeon and Browning, I have zero. I said it on the show multiple times to you. I don't think these aren't quarterbacks that can come in and even go 1-2 in a 3-game stretch.
No, they're not. No, they're not. The Bengals consensusly have one of the 5 worst backup quarterback rooms in the league, which, I mean, whatever. Like the Cowboys have Cooper Rush. He's a good backup quarterback. The Colts have Gardner Minshew. Those are good. I mean,
those are
Tyler Huntley's a good backup quarterback, and he's had to play way too much. But going back to the Chad thing, I'm actually so excited to see the social media stuff with him. He's gonna get that crowd so fired up.
Right.
It's gonna be awesome. And Burrow's gonna play.
All right. So, all right. Well, with that said, what is your score prediction? Assuming Burrow plays. We're going on the assumption Burrow plays. Because I already said if Burrow's not playing, I don't think we win. So
Burrow plays. I would guess the line moves up to 3.5 or 4 on Monday when it's obvious that he's gonna suit up. Because if he's not ruled out by Sunday, he's gonna play.
Right.
I'm going low scoring. I've got 2017 Cincinnati. I think that we're still better than the Rams. The two teams that we faced are very good teams, even though Cleveland's offense very inept. Baltimore's a good team. They're a lot better than I thought they were. If they stay healthy, if they get healthy and stay healthy. But the Rams are not a objectively good football team. Home, Burrow's going to play. Jamar will get involved. There's no lockdown corner that can stop him.
Right.
Jalen Ramsey's not there anymore. They don't have great safeties. They don't have great linebackers. They're much more suited to lock down Aaron Donald than they were in the Super Bowl. We haven't even talked about that. This is a Super Bowl rematch. I don't even think anybody really wants to talk about it. But I don't think
the teams aren't the same.
Well, right.
We are, but they're not.
The Bengals are very similar. The Rams don't have Von Miller. They don't have those guys on the edge who were flanking Aaron Donald.
Odell Beckham. They don't have Andrew Whitworth. They don't have Jalen Ramsey. Yeah. I mean, they're not even a shell of themselves, is what they are. But,
correct. So
even worse for us to lose to them.
Yeah. So I've got 2017 Bengals.
I had 23-9.
And I think Zach wants to beat McVay. That's his boy. I think Zach wants to beat McVay pretty badly.
So I have the same kind of thing. I have a ugly, type of low scoring game, a lot of stall drives. I got us 23-19. And I would like it to not be a nail biter. I could use a week where I'm not aggravated and I don't have a nail biter. The fan base could use this week to just it's prime time and not have to answer all the questions the next day. So that's what I've got, 23-19. So we're thinking along the same lines in terms of the total score. I don't know if we said this on air on the last preview, but I have to give you props because we were talking about bets that we liked, and this is a
Florida, baby.
This is the
Florida.
That's right. You said Florida was a 6-point underdog. Okay. And you said not only is Florida going to cover, Florida's going to win that game. So I did a parlay and I had Florida play, and I bought the extra point. Anyway, we're 5-point underdog. I bought the point to 6. I always buy the extra point. And then I money lined them on a card. And I had a very good week last week. And those 2 cards were the reason, because they were games that I wasn't even looking at the Tennessee-Florida game. And a buddy of mine who was playing, I looked at his account and he was big on Tennessee. And I said, one of us is going to be unhappy. Well, it wasn't me that was unhappy. And I said, oh, no, somebody told me that Florida was the pick and and I money lined him. I mean, here. And he doubled down on the second half. He went big on the second half.
That's awful.
It was just adding insult to injury. And I sat there and I was just kind of, and once they've made the bet, there's no point in me calling them up, but I have to thank you for that. So if you guys do any gambling at all, Jake's podcast, gambling podcast, if he's going to give you one nugget like that every week, that's well worth the time to listen to the podcast. So
you want one more? You want one more this week? I'll do one more this week and see how well I do this year. I faded the Buffs every single week. Finally got there on Saturday with Colorado State almost beating them. We're doing it again. Oregon laying 21 at home. Oregon is the best home conference covering team the last 15 years. They cover almost 70% of the time against Pac-12 opponents at home in Eugene. They're way better than Colorado. Oregon's averaging 600 yards a game of offense. What do we really think they're going to do to the Colorado defense? So I think they win the game by 40 points. And another angle that, we can look at with Colorado is they've put such a target on their backs that when they face these big time quarterbacks and big time offenses that are not Colorado State, these teams are going to want to run the score up on them. That's an opportunity to pad your Heisman stats. This is the worst defense in the Pac-12 and it's not even close. So yeah, I get the hype. It's fun. The Shadur stuff is fun. Yeah, very good player. Probably an NFL quarterback someday. but that's it. They have holes at every level of their defense. Their offensive line sucks. Oregon's a top 10 team. I think they're one of the 7 best teams in the country. This is a mismatch, and this line is wrong. So
Okay,
Oregon
there you
minus
go.
21. It's not, it's not a juicy underdog. +6. Sorry, I don't have that this week.
Not. But covering 21, covering 21. So guys, if you're a teaser person, you could tease them at 14 or 15 and never worry.
I would not recommend that. I would take the 21. But if you want to get my full card, Jake Circus podcast, gambling show Friday morning, that's tomorrow. And then come check out me on the Bleacher Report betting stream on the Bleacher Report app Saturday morning at 11 a.m. Eastern. I'm going through the full college football slate. It's loaded. It's a good one. Got some best bets: Clemson, Florida State, Ohio State, Notre Dame, Bama, Ole Miss, Baylor, Texas, all the good stuff. So check that out. Turn your notifications on for the Bleacher Report app, and I'll see y'all there.
There you go. So now Jake will be back. He'll be doing the recap with me this week. And maybe we'll get we won't get Heath. We might get Devin, maybe your dad. I don't know. Check with him. Obviously it's weird for us because it's a Monday night. And we're spread it all over. But we'll definitely put up our recap right after the game. Jake will be there. I will be there. We will revisit this Colorado Oregon game pick. And hopefully we're happy and we can blow the victory horn. And the Quacker. I don't even think Jake's ever seen it.
No, I don't think I have.
No. So, and there were calls last year to upgrade the horn and all that. And I like to stick with what got us there. That victory horn got us to a Super Bowl. Okay. There's no reason to change the victory horn. So it's tradition. But that's it. So if you don't subscribe, please subscribe. It's all we ask. Throw your comments down. Tell us what your score prediction is going to be. Tell us what you think of Jake's pick of Oregon covering over
people aren't gonna like it. There's a lot of people on Colorado.
You know what? And that is
people aren't gonna like it.
Look, there was a lot of people like my friend on Tennessee. I would rather be on the winning side, not the side that's necessarily got the most people. And if you look at Vegas, it wasn't built by the winners. Okay. So look at Vegas, look at Atlantic City. These places weren't built by the winners. So I would always rather be on the winning side and not the more populous side, which typically is the losers are on the more populous side. So, but please subscribe, check out Jake's podcast. We will see you right after the game. And hopefully we're blowing the victory horn. I'm going to say, hoot everybody. Have a good week.